This is the Volkswagen California, the quintessential camper van. Now, in its latest generation, it even comes as a plug-in hybrid with all-wheel drive. Join me as I go on a week-long road trip to the French Riviera to check it out. I'm AJ, you're watching Autogefühl, and let's dive right in with the design. Up front, this is clearly the MQB multivan, and therefore it's not on the Transporter platform, because remember, that's also shared now with Ford. So you do get things like these honeycomb structure pattern for the lower part of the bumper and this nice dash of chrome right here in the middle. I'm not a big fan of this particular color combination. This is the energetic orange and this is kind of like a dull silver. I much rather have the candy white and the starlight blue. But I do like these headlamps, and you can also get the optional IQ Light matrix technology. Being on the longer version of the multivan platform, the California is 5.17 meters long, it's about 2 meters wide, and just under 2 meters tall. So you should still be able to fit it in most car parks. You have different wheel options. This is an 18-inch wheel. I think you can pick something a little bit more fun, coupled with a better color. I think it looks really nice. I do really like this dash of chrome along the shoulder line. This contrasting mirror cap also adds to the drama. Another cool feature is that, as you can see, you have the awning, so you can move the awning actually from this side to the other side as well. And now being on the multivan platform, you have sliding doors on both sides. We'll take a closer look at that. But now you can imagine the wingspan of your campsite. You can have the awning on one side, an extendable tent on the other side. Of course, the roof pops up, and then you have a much bigger campsite to enjoy time out with your friends and family in nature. Further down, the ocean badging to distinguish this particular trim, the petrol filler over here, and your shore power to connect the external power line at the back. Of course, being a plug-in hybrid, you can charge your California now. This has a 19.7 kilowatt-hour net battery pack, and here you can charge using 40 kilowatt DC. 10 to 80% is about 26 minutes. On a full charge, the claimed range is 85 kilometers roundabout. So if you are using this as a daily driver to get to work, that should cover that. And of course, on long holidays, the hybrid system should carry you as far as you like. We'll see if I'm unable to charge the plug-in hybrid battery, how much mileage I get by the end of the road trip. Now, another fun fact is that, of course, this has the traction battery, the high voltage PHEV battery. There's also the 12-volt starter battery, one camping battery, and depending on the option, and in the model we have here, a second camping battery. That's 4 batteries, and that's why this particular Ocean weighs 2.6 tons. All right, let's check out what's going on under the hood. Nice to see gas-charged struts and some further insulation, so thumbs up for that. Now, as usual, you have the 2-liter Turbo 4 diesel engine, which makes 150 horsepower, and the 2-liter Turbo 4 petrol engine, which makes 200 horsepower. They're both mated to the 7-speed double-clutch gearbox and drive the front wheels. But what we have in here is what's brand new, and that's the plug-in hybrid all-wheel drive. This is a 1.5 Turbo 4 petrol engine mated to a 6-speed double-clutch with an integrated electric motor driving the front wheels. But there's another electric motor on the rear axle driving the rear wheels. The combined system output is 245 horsepower, and as you can imagine, this is an electric all-wheel drive system. Here we have the key fob. Doesn't have any California badging on the back, unfortunately. Let's check the door closing sound. Pretty resounding, a nice thick rubber beading on the top, very reassuring. The door doesn't honestly feel that heavy despite it being so large. And as you can already see, there's plenty of storage. A large bin down here with even a little trash can, your high visibility jacket over there. And to be honest, this is quite a ways down. You have to reach quite a bit to get to this. So thankfully, there is another rubber lined tray right here in the middle, which also has your fuel filler release button over there, and a padded elbow rest and mirror and window controls right at the top. Okay, so let me get inside. It is a little bit of a step up, quite literally. I'm going to try to keep it as clean as possible because I have to live in this for a whole week. I don't want it to be dirty already. And wow, really expansive dashboard. That's the first thing that catches my attention. And it's also so deep, I can't even reach, no matter how hard I try, all the way down there. So lots to talk about, lots of storage, and of course, a little bit of a controversial topic with this infotainment. I'll tell you what I mean. So get inside and let's take a closer look. Oh boy, I do feel like I'm the captain of a ship here. Look at these two armrests. I even got one more over here. I was going to tell you more about the storage, right? So each seat has this little tray underneath it, which is felt lined. So really useful to drop quick access items. There's also a nice glove box over here. It's damped, no felt lining, but there are slots for cards and coins on either side. Up here you have a second glove box, which does have rubber lining. And finally, up here you have another compartment which does have some padding as well. Now this, unfortunately, is the old gen 10-inch infotainment system. I wish Volkswagen had put the newer version on this. And also remember, this has the old sliders which were not even backlit. So it's really unfortunate to see that Volkswagen have not changed that. But let's move on to some more happier things. So you have some really cool shortcuts. You can quickly access things like the recuperation by sliding the top drawer. The main home screen has different widgets that you can set up. Like this layout has navigation, your audio, and your charging status on the right hand side. You can also see, again, because this is the hybrid, the energy flow. You can see how the TSI is working, or the front motor is working, the battery and the status of the battery charge, and also the rear axle electric motor as well. And who could forget the California menu. On this here, you can get a quick status overview. You can see how much fresh water you have. As you can see, I have none. I need to fill that up before I hit the road. And of course, your camping battery. You can toggle your refrigerator box on or off. Like right now, I don't have anything in there, so it's off just to save some battery, and we can use that as needed. Camping mode, we'll get into that later on. And a couple other camping related buttons. Of course, the exciting bit here is that this is the button to raise the roof. Whoop, whoop, raise the roof. And also to lower the roof. And we'll show you how that works. This is to quick charge the camping battery, and that's not so important for now. We'll get back to that later. While you don't have a separate climate control console, at least you have a shortcut to jump to the climate menu on the touchscreen. And of course, you can use your seat heaters. There's another shortcut button to go between the driving modes, which would be electric and hybrid. And of course, you have a parking menu. There is a self-park feature, but what I commonly use this for is to jump straight to the cameras, because this being such a large vehicle, it's very crucial to have. And unfortunately, I'm not very satisfied with the camera quality. Yes, there are a couple water droplets, but I think the resolution, even for the 360 camera, could have been a little bit better. But moving on to better things, there's a inductive phone charging pad, which is also grippy, a couple old-fashioned USB-C ports, and a 12-volt power socket all the way here on the right-hand side. Finally, this bottom part of the console drops down to have some cup holders. Look at how compact the shift lever is. It's really nice and really easy to access. And down here you have your electronic parking brake with auto hold. Now the steering wheel is really nice because you've got a wide, thick grip and physical buttons. So you have, for example, controls for your telephony, and this is to shift through the different menus on the digital instruments, your track. You also have paddle shifters, or in this case for the regen control. And on the left side you have, for example, all the buttons to manage your adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, all your adaptive driver assistance systems. The digital instruments are also really nice. You can have different views. You can even have the entire map on the screen, which is really useful. And you can even change what the right and left dials show. So for example, you can have your driving distance or your navigation on the right side and choose something else for the left side. There is also an optional head-up display. All right, are you excited to see how it is back here? First of all, again, a really light door. It's not electronic, but it has a soft close function, which should help sneaking in and out of the van at night to use the bathroom. We'll see how many times I have to do that this week. But let's get inside. There's a nice handle. I'm going to try to, again, keep it as clean as possible. But wow, how welcoming. Let me welcome you into my van. Come on in, come on in. Welcome to my van. Isn't it cozy? I love the lighting. Speaking of which, there you go. No matter where you are, you just double tap on any of the lights and all of them shut down. That's pretty cool. But I have a full control right here in this little control panel. There is a accompanying app that you can put on your phone and you can control pretty much everything from that. We'll take a closer look at this throughout the week as we're camping. Another cool thing, of course, is the fact that you have these roller blinds on the outside two windows here and the window on the back to give you some privacy when you're camping. For the front, you have actual panels that you can just clamp on and then you can have a completely private interior. Plenty of storage, plenty of charging options, including a USB over there. More storage under these seats. These are actually even deeper than the ones in the front, so you can perhaps put some underwear or things like towels down there. But the biggest talking point here is the fact that there is a second sliding door. So now you have a brand new kitchenette and even a cool little picnic table that you can put out and even actually remove this altogether, and then you can put it here to have like an extended counter, or even over here to have a little bit more of a working space. We'll get into that later on, but what I wanted to focus on now is this kitchenette here. Are you hungry? Because I can cook you something. There is a gas stovetop. Yes, just one burner. The last camper van had two, but VW says due to customer feedback, they went to one, and that way they've been able to shrink the kitchenette size in total. And if you are camping, you generally do have a separate barbecue or something like that. Of course, this is where your freshwater tap is, right over there. There is a gray water tank down here, right over there. And because I will also be working remotely, #vanlife, there's also domestic power outlets, so I will be able to charge my laptop, hopefully. I'll tell you how that works. Places to keep your plates, places to keep some cutlery. I'm sure you can get magnetized pads and magnetized glassware and utensils so that you don't have them rolling around and clattering around when you're out on the road. These seats can also be slid forward and backwards on these railings, and I'll show you how to convert this into the lower bed, and I'll show you how the upper bed works when we're actually camping. But apart from sliding forward and backwards, you can also recline the back, or if I were to put this flat, then I have easy access to further storage over here. Nice compartmentalized bag. In fact, this also doubles as a way to block that window. There's also a very aircraft style overhead bin to keep more items over there. Right now there's just the cargo net. And lastly, on this side, you have some actual cabinets. They're pretty deep and they're lit up, but the entrance, this width is quite narrow, but very usable nevertheless. You have to be careful where you open this hatch because it is huge and it is heavy, but it's quite high. In fact, if it's raining, I could totally take shelter under this. So, a couple fun things. Right here, as you can see, you have a couple picnic chairs, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time on those, so we'll give you a better report while we're camping. There's also, of course, down here, blinds for the rear window. And now if we move our attention to the actual trunk area, I've brought my ruler. You can see that it's actually quite big. So from here to here, this is about 88 centimeters. So it's quite wide. You can easily fit a suitcase inside. Of course, the seats are in their backmost position, but even then, this is about 90 centimeters. So there's plenty of space to keep actual luggage. I'm planning to keep my inflatable kayak so that I can go kayaking. So that's probably where this will go. These are, for example, the actual blinds that we will put up on the front windows. And being the plug-in hybrid, we have the charging cable along with the shore power hookup line, which is going to come in handy for us. While we're down here, you can also see there is a picnic table that, of course, you can use outside with the picnic chairs. Or what I think I will plan to do most likely is put this right in the middle so that I have a nice place, a nice countertop, a nice desk to work. Sitting on these chairs, sitting with this table, can I really work 9 to 5 every day? We'll see how that goes. I don't need to tell you what this is. This is the mattress. So once the seats are down, this will roll out and make the bottom bed. This is where 2 people potentially can sleep, and the top bunk would be where 2 other people sleep. We'll see which one is more comfortable. They are quite different. It's interesting to say because those are kind of have like these box springs, and this actually has like a very hard wooden plate on the bottom. So which one is more comfortable, we'll find out. There's actually another smaller cabinet over here with more space. There's the trip switch for you to connect to shore power. There's also a little shower head down here, as you can see. I'm not sure I want to take a shower out in the open, but definitely useful when I want to maybe wash my feet, get rid of all the sand from the beach. Am I making you guys jealous? Maybe by the end of the video. This is where you fill the fresh water. So it's always a good idea to have fresh water in here to wash your hands. And if you're not really going to be doing a lot of cooking, it's going to come in handy. And this is where you would use this funnel to fill that in. You can attach the shower head here, and that's how you can take a quick shower, for example. And last but not least, this is where you release the tow hook. And you have up to 1.5 tons towing capacity braked, but of course you can just use this to mount your bicycle rack. And there we have it. We're adventure ready. Are you excited? I can't wait to hit the road. So come on, let's get going. Welcome to my campsite here in Saint-Tropez. And as you can see, I have the awning out, I have my table and my chairs. The awning is actually really easy to use. You get this key, and then you have to unlock the tool to then be able to wind out the awning from over here. So really nice and easy, and as you can see, it's very large, it's very expansive, plenty of space underneath to camp out as I have. These also are a good clothing line to hang your towels as well. These chairs are also actually really nice and comfortable and very sturdy. The back support is also taller now in this new generation, so it's a redesigned chair. So it's actually very comfortable. I have been working on this, as you can see, but with my laptop and my height, I'm 5'8" or about 1.7 meters. It's a little bit taller than I would have liked, so if the desk was a little bit lower, it would have been better, but this is a perfect height to eat. Over here, you also see that there is a power socket, but unfortunately, I've tested this. There's 3 of them, there's 2 more on the inside, but this one on the outside doesn't charge my laptop, so that's a bit of a bummer. I've checked the trip switch, I've checked the camping mode. They work if you're connected to a camping external power supply, but as you can see right now, I have not. And in theory, if you're wild camping, you should be able to charge your laptop. Unfortunately, there's only one on the inside that does that. But speaking of the inside, let's get inside and take a closer look. All right, let's get inside. I'm gonna try to dust my shoes off. It's been a lot of fun camping inside here for the past few nights. Let's talk a little bit more about the kitchenette. What I really like is this really large and deep refrigerator. Please ignore all the junk food I have in there. But it's really nice because it's also very accessible from the outside when I'm sitting over there. This countertop is also really useful, comes in really handy, and even the sink, especially when I was up in the mountains to quickly wash my hands or put on my contacts. It's really easy to operate, and 29 liters is plenty, and it's really easy to refill. This gas top is also really nice. It gets hot really quickly, and to boil a pasta or a pot of pasta, it takes just about 5 to 10 minutes. So a quick lunch, no problem. Now down here, like I was saying, there are two more power sockets. And as you can see, this one works to charge the laptop, but this one doesn't. So that's a little bit of a hit and miss over there. Speaking of hits and misses, another thing which I think could have been done a little bit better is this touchscreen. It's really slow to respond. It takes time to boot up. And when I want to quickly, for example, turn the lights off, see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It took 4 taps. 1, 2, 3. So it's not very responsive. And you know, in the middle of the night, when I want to quickly turn the lights on or turn the lights off, in general, this console could have been a little bit better, but I'm really nitpicking here. Another thing I noticed is, of course, I've slept here in the bottom and I've slept here on the top. And while they're both very comfortable, they're a little bit different between, you know, the ground and the upper bunk. So let's talk a little bit more about that. All right, so to make the lower bed, first, we need to roll this carpet as far out of the way as possible. Then we need to move these 2 chairs up all the way. Then use the center tab to pull the seat down, make sure the backrest is all the way down. I have already put the head restraints facing the other direction because I did it once and I didn't really need to change it again. And push this down. And then if you want, actually, I might just kind of put it back a little bit so that it's kind of in line here. And then I just unclip these 2. And then now the mattress rolls right out. So this is the bottom bunk. And as you can see, the cushion is pretty thick. There is a bit of a hard plate in the bottom, and these are different segments. So initially I thought, you know, this is going to be bumpy, you know, because it's sitting on the seat, it might not be very flat. And I thought this would be not as comfortable. But to be honest, this is actually really nice and comfortable. It's not quite as wide as the bunk on top, but it's a lot more insulated. I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed, is that because of this tent on the top, it gets quite loud. Right now, I have a really great view of the beach on this side, but a really terrible view of the road and the noise from the road on this side. And at night, it gets quite noisy if the roof tent is up. And if you're sleeping up there, even when I was up in the mountains, it does get a lot more loud. It gets a bit colder. Down here, it's much more cozy, and this bed is actually quite comfortable. So, I'm 5'8". My feet are all the way at the bottom. As you can see, there's still plenty of space above my head. So yeah, and 2 people my size can actually fit in here. Before we can go to the top, first thing we need to do is spin these seats around. I've already done one for the passenger seat. There's this tab down here, as you can see, and it's really easy to swivel. And this is also really great to just sit and chat with your co-campers. Even the driver's seat can be swiveled. It's also adjustable for height. So it's really cool. Because this is the MQB platform, there is no large handbrake down here. Speaking of which, while it's really easy to get in a good driving position and really find a comfortable contour, it's kind of silly that the backrest is so, it's got the old wheel here. But anyway, another thing to note while I'm here is that I really like these covers to cover the windshield and even the sides. This is really nice because it just is held up by the sun visors. Really smart thinking. These are held up simply by magnets, so they just click, 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 pop into place. And on this side, you will notice that I have attached the louver. So it is a great ventilation system. There's also a mosquito mesh. So in the evenings, if I just pop this in when I'm camping, I get a lot of air. And now, here we go, watch out, the sky is falling. Whoop. Let's take a peek upstairs. Hi, look at how cool it is up here. So, my feet are all the way at the bottom again, and as you can see, this is a little bit longer than the bottom bunk. It is also just a little bit wider, but not by that much. But yeah, it's a lot more louder up here. It did rain last night, but not a single drop of water came in, so it is therefore very watertight, and it doesn't get too cold, but yeah, definitely loud. The mattress, on the other hand, is a little bit thinner, but as you can see, there are these kind of box springs just below them. So the combined effect, I would say, is just as comfortable as it is in the bottom bunk. But last night, you know, it's so fun to plug in your iPad and watch a movie and just huddle up here, especially if you're camping with kids. I'm sure they will love it. These have mosquito mesh, but if you want to close them completely, it's really easy to just zip it up, even the sides. The front also, actually, the entire panel can be opened up if you want to really have that open air experience. They also have provided, for example, USB-C, power charging sockets, light switches, you know, so there's plenty of charging opportunities for people on the upper bunk as well. But what they haven't really thought about is providing some place as a dresser. So there are no mirrors inside. So I think they could have easily put a little mirror here. Sure, you can stick one on yourself or something up here. That would have been nice. And another thing would be that if they were able to provide a mosquito mesh for this window so that we could open this up at night when we're camping and not have mosquitoes come in but have more ventilation, that would have been nice as well. But really, I'm nitpicking, and overall, it's been a lot of fun camping inside the California. We're going to be spending a lot of time on the highway, so a great chance now for us to get to know the California a little bit better and how it behaves out on the open road. First impressions are, I would say, very positive. The biggest thing that really aids in this mile-munching characteristic of the California is the travel assist. So combining the adaptive cruise control, the lane keeping assist, the traffic sign recognition, all of these these ADAS systems work together in really good harmony to basically drive the car semi-autonomously out here on the highway. And this really takes a lot of the stress off of long distance driving. So right now I have that active, it's maintaining a very comfortable distance, it's accelerating, decelerating, keeping me in lane, and it feels a lot safer. The other thing I notice is, well, the noise. So now we're getting into an unrestricted part of the Autobahn. Of course, this being a van, I'm not going to push it too much, but 130 kilometers per hour, you do hear quite a bit of wind roar and tire roar inside. Not to mention, every time I go on undulations like this, I can hear everything inside the van. I can hear the cutlery clanging around. I can hear the bottles of water that I've stowed away. There's so much storage. You keep discovering new places to keep putting different things. And the other thing is, because of the wind, like right now I'm at 140 kilometers per hour here on the Autobahn, I also feel that the van is more susceptible to crosswinds, which would also make sense. It's not very aerodynamic from a lateral wind gust point of view, so therefore, yeah, this travel assist also makes me feel a lot more comfortable. So noise is definitely something that sticks out if you're used to smaller, more compact vehicles, as I am, and I do a lot of long distance driving in my small personal vehicle. This is definitely louder than that. But on the other hand, visibility is actually really good for a vehicle of this size. I have really good visibility out forward. I can lift the seat base. The steering wheel column is adjustable for reach and rake. Even these armrests I can completely adjust. And again, you have different seating material options, the upholstery. This fabric and leatherette combination is also very comfortable. It gives me enough grip so I'm not sliding or I'm not slouching and slipping forward as I'm driving. It sticks really well with especially fabric like this that I'm wearing on my shirt and my pants, and I don't feel like I'm going to slip or slide around in the seat. The plastics around me, now that I've getting to know it a little bit more, do feel a little bit hard. So parts of the dashboard, I think they could have spent a little bit more money to make it a little bit more soft touch, because not only am I driving the van, I'm living in the van. And that's also why, sure, you're not going to touch most of these dashboard materials. It's more important what's back there. but at the end of the day, it would have been that much nicer if plastics down here, for example, were a little bit more, softer. It's too early to talk about mileage. We'll circle back to that later on, but I'm really excited to see how far I can get tonight, and we'll catch up after that. I have just finished a nice day kayaking on the Verdon Gorge, and now I'm driving down to Saint-Tropez. I've already covered 1,000 kilometers, so good time to give you a quick update on the mileage. I'm getting 7.6 liters for 100 kilometers, which is surprisingly good, to be honest. I was expecting a lot worse because I haven't had a chance to charge the plug-in hybrid battery, the traction battery. So yes, that's not really helping much. It's only about 1.8 kilowatt hours for 100 kilometers. So it's really just acting as a little boost and a punch, filling in the gaps, adding the torque low down and things like that. And therefore, the unfortunate truth is, for most of this time, this small 1.5 liter petrol engine is carrying a heavy dead battery and a big heavy rear motor, which I don't think I've ever really had the need to use. So that's also why, as we'll see now, we've found some nice winding roads here in the French Alps, how it fares when you want to push it a little bit. So what's the dynamic capability of the van? First of all, you can hear everything clattering around, and this is actually a funny thing I realized is, unlike my usual road trips where I just pack a suitcase, here in the California I had to move in. I have plates, I have cutlery, I have, all kinds of stuff hidden in all of these cabinets, and I wish some of them, like especially the cabinet under the sink where I have my pots and pans and plates, they were rubber lined. Like the glove box here, and even some of these other glove boxes have felt or rubber lining. The cabinets back there are just, they're just wood. So there's a lot of clattering. Of course, being a camper van, you can always make it your own, and you can always go back and add all these extra things to personalize your own camper van. And that's probably one of the things I would recommend you do right away. Now, coming to the dynamic capability, again, you can hear that engine. It's having to do most of the work. So that's something quite audible. It's not an unpleasant noise. It's a 4-cylinder. So it's really smooth. It doesn't feel like it's, strained, but it does make its presence known, and you can tell that it's having to work a little bit harder. But the good thing is, around these corners, it actually handles its weight really well, and its size also really well. The suspension is actually really good. It surprised me. It's very quiet and it's very composed. It really prevents body roll. The good thing is there's a lot of low center of mass, right? It's the big battery pack, the fuel tank, the water tank. And speaking about the fuel tank, because this is a plug-in hybrid, the fuel tank is a little bit smaller. So I've only been getting a range of about 530 kilometers. So more frequent fueling stops, unfortunately. But anyway, because of all of those things low down, it does have a low center of gravity, and that means that it's able to navigate corners quite well. It's also quite interesting because I expected there to be quite a bit of flex. Because if you think about it, there is no roof. It's just this cross member here and the cross member all the way at the trunk, and the entire expanse of the roof is empty. It's cut open because of the pop-up. So I was expecting there to be a lot of flex, and I'm really happy to say that there is none of that flex. So the van tracks in a very straight line. The steering is communicative. Sure, this is a leisure vehicle and it wants to be driven at a leisurely pace, but it really holds its own if you pick up the pace like this. It's got really good grip. And knowing that I have four-wheel drive, and this is a front-wheel drive platform, I also feel more confident pushing it. But look at that, barely any body roll. So dynamic capabilities are really good. The brakes, on the other hand, are a little bit hit and miss. Being the plug-in hybrid, it uses the regen as much as it can almost all the time, which is great because that's how you want to charge the battery. But it's a very spongy, dull bite feel. So sometimes I feel like I have to really stand on this, and I'm also just subconsciously feeling the weight of the van so I feel like I have to press the brake pedal a lot harder. But on the other hand, the regeneration mode, I've set it to auto, and it's actually really good. It's really smart. So it uses the ADAS and the navigation system to understand, like if I'm coming up to a steep curve, it brakes using the regen brake, the recuperation, it brakes me a lot harder. Or if I'm going very close to the car in front, it also automatically starts braking for me. So it's not a one pedal, but it's the amount of regen is automatically modulated by the computer, and that's great. I don't want to have to keep fiddling around with settings and keep changing different things. I don't want to have to think about it. And this is a good system because it does the thinking for you. So overall, on the winding roads here in the south of France, the California has managed to impress me. And now let's talk a little bit about how the California is to drive in a small European town such as this. First of all, being the plug-in hybrid, right now I'm driving in electric mode. So I'm quiet, I'm not disturbing the peace of this little town. And instantly when it needs to recharge the battery, the petrol engine takes over right away, and it's very seamless. Of course, because there's also a small motor on the DSG gearbox, you don't really feel any kind of jerk or, the engaging and disengaging of the petrol engine. It's very, very seamless. The visibility is also really good. I like the fact that you have these little quarter glass panels all the way in the front, so I can really peer down into that corner to make sure I'm not hitting the curb in these little narrow lanes. Visibility out the back is a bit hit and miss. That large overhead bin does block quite a bit of the view. That being said, I have some luggage on the back anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. These big wing mirrors on the side really help. And of course, that 360 camera, even though it's not the best resolution, is a lifesaver. Couldn't do without it. Trying to navigate through these narrow little streets. And another thing I miss is the mirroring of the Google Maps from my Android Auto directly onto here, my digital instruments. I just get the turn-by-turn directions, instructions, but I don't get the actual map view. It's only the native map and the native maps navigation that can be mirrored here on the cockpit. But really, really surprising how maneuverable this is. The turning circle is really tight. It doesn't feel large. I'm able to squeeze between these narrow gaps as if I was driving a small hatchback. This doesn't even have rear axle steering, but still very, very easy to park, very easy to drive around. Of course, speaking about parking, it's just shy of 2 meters tall, so you have to be careful where you park. That's why I'm out to find the parking lot at the port, so that I don't have to even worry about, hitting the roof on one of these underground garages. So overall, I'm pretty happy to see how easy the California is to drive across different scenarios. Welcome to Lake Mont Cenis, the final stop on my road trip. This week, I've driven 1,600 kilometers and really gotten to know the California. I like how spacious it is on the inside, now that it's bigger. It's also very comfortable. The auxiliary heater really helps on a cold mountain morning. And I also like how well it drives. It's really capable on winding roads. Even though it's quite large, it's easy to maneuver in small cities. What I would do a little bit differently if I had a California would be to put some more rubber lining on the insides of some of the cabinets so that, for example, plates and pots don't clatter as much. What you cannot change, and I think is the weakest link in the California, is the infotainment system. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the price. The Ocean, which is the top spec, with the plug-in hybrid 4Motion, is a whopping 103,000 euros. And keep in mind, yes, while I got 8 liters for 100 kilometers, which is pretty good, if you're not able to charge it, then it's going to give really bad mileage and doesn't make sense to drive it in the city. Therefore, if you're buying it as a private user and not as a lease, and there is no incentive for a plug-in hybrid, I would stick with the diesel version. In fact, I would probably even pick the base beach variant, which is about 64,000 euros. And that way you have more seats, you still have the pop-up roof if you want to go camping, And you can just take out some of the seats and put your own mattresses and make it a camper that way. But what about you? What do you guys think? An unfortunate ending to an otherwise pleasant experience with the California. This morning, the roof just would not go down. Seems like an electronic or a software issue. No matter how many times I rebooted it, it didn't work. I spoke to the VW service center. They were also of not much help and nobody really came to fix it. At the end of the day, it was a pretty easy solution. In the user manual, which is on board in the computer, it tells you how to manually override the hydraulic pump with a simple screwdriver. Right here, you can release the pressure and the roof goes down, and it also comes with some straps to further secure the roof. But it's a bit unfortunate knowing that this is a brand new car. Hopefully Volkswagen fixes this issue. Another important thing to consider is how does this compare with its key competitors, for example, the Mercedes Marco Polo. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel because in a few weeks I will be doing another road trip and camping inside the Mercedes Marco Polo, and I can really compare these two and give you a much better comparative verdict then. Also, check out Thomas's review of the Marco Polo. Though he didn't camp in it, we can already get a really good overview of how that van is, and check out some of the other camping vans that we have on the channel. Thanks for watching.